we should also handle employees who are working in the private sector. And I'm saying this, Honorable Speaker, because looking at what has been proposed, Honorable Speaker, for a worker to be able to attain up to the age of 60, assuming he was employed at the age of 20, a record 40 years. We hear other employees talking about have been worked in this institution for the last 35 or something. I think it is recommendable. But Honorable Speaker, also at that age, a person ought to have been able to organize themselves. What happens normally for people when they are told to go and retire and they don't want to go, or they are seeking or asking for extension, is because they have not prepared themselves for retirement. And I think it is important for us also as a committee, as we think about, talking about at what time do you leave your employment, we should also be in a position, whether legally or by law or some legislation, to prepare these employees when they are going for retirement. At the age of 60, Honorable Speaker, it is a little bit old. And it is also for us to think, I don't know what other countries and other jurisdictions do, but I want to believe that if somebody has worked for the last 30 years, at the age, a retirement age of around 55, as it is when you want to get your NSSF retirement, at the age of 55, so that at least we can vacate more positions for the young people to be able. Of course, vacating at the age of 60 will leave a few vacancies for the young generation that is seeking. But I will be proposing a further amendment to reduce it to 55 and be able to see whether we can create more employment for the young generation. Secondly, about the 12 months in acting capacity. Honorable Speaker, 12 months, the proposal by Major Dong, I think the committee should have stuck with the 6 months. Honorable Speaker, an institution must always prepare itself for transition. So we shouldn't be talking about 12 months so that an institution can be able to prepare recruitment and whatever. I mean, what stops the institution from starting a replacement recruitment maybe 12 months before I retire? So I think, again, it is important for us to think critically about the 12 months and be able to leave it at the 6 months so that somebody is assured whether they will proceed or not proceed in the acting capacities that they will be acting. Honorable Speaker, the preparation, and this goes to most of us, particularly the male employee. Honorable Speaker, when I retire at the age of 60, given a small package, that is when now I start looking for a young girl who will be going to rest with me after the 60 years. And this is where the problem starts. That this young girl, when she comes into your life, I will think that she is so much interested in me, but what she's interested is what I have. And as soon as that is finished, then, and I think that is where we are saying that we need to have a program
intervention
where
by the Honorable Jackson Kosgei, nominated member. Is it an intervention
he's not,
on this subject matter?
He's absent, actually.
Well, you may proceed, Honorable Gikari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I was saying that it is important for us to be able to prepare the retiree that as they are leaving their employment, we will be able to. And secondly also, Madam Speaker, it is important once the institution knows that a certain senior person will be leaving in the next 12 months. Then again, it is important because I doubt whether there is any institution that has no deputy. That deputy should be, aligned to the processes of how the continuity of that institution, even after as we also, because again, we have deputies who have been enacting capacities for a very long time, and it also brings a lot of issues. Honorable Speaker, and I totally agree with Madam Zamzam from Mombasa. It is important for us also to look, as I was saying about the private sector. Honorable Speaker, we passed a private sectors, it's an act of parliament now. And we even pegged how much the private security are supposed to be paid. Honorable Speaker, it is very, very shocking that as we are talking, or we are speaking now, with the act in place, the private sector guards are still being paid the mean mega 7,000 per month when his employer is asking maybe for 35. I think it is important for the institutions which have been bestowed upon this for purposes of operationalization of this act to be able to look that actually these private guards are paid what we had agreed. Honorable Speaker, it is not right for me or any employer to ask for 35,000 and continue paying private guard only some 5,000 without consideration. Honorable Speaker, this is key, that retirement is, yes, as we talk about retirement in this act as proposed by Major Dong, I think it is a way that we need to think and think critically on how we'll be assisting our employees. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support with an intention of bringing a further amendment on the retirement age. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gikaria. The Honorable Fabian Moli, member for Kangundo. Honorable Fabian, I think that mic is not working. Kindly move to another mic. Please provide him with another mic.
Thank you very much, Madam Honorable Speaker, for giving me my chance to add my voice on this bill. It is true, indeed, this bill came to our committee. And also not forgetting to thank Honorable Major Dong and my members, our colleagues in the same committee with Secretariat, for all the work they did for this bill. Madam Speaker, when this bill came to our committee, the first thing there was a lot of crossfire on this retirement age. And we have come to realize that the 60 years for retirement of Kenyans is very important. As we had some submissions, some people proposing that, as also I've heard honorable members say that we should come the age retirement to be 55 years. Others were saying 57. Others were coming with 65 years, leaving the case of disability for 65 years. The 55 years, which went to crossfire in the reduced station, like especially the teachers, parastatals, there was a lot of argument that many members of society, they have taken the loan, basing that their retirement age is 60 years. You have a mortgage which you are looking to retire at the age of 60 years. You have a car loan you are looking to retire at 60 years. So we came to found that if we go less these years, we are going to disadvantage many civil servants. So I put also clear that it is not this committee which has put it to 60 years. It was like that before. Before the legislature says that the retirement age was 60 years. It's only that we have now make it to be a act of law. So before was operating through the legislature that the 60 years to be retirement end, but assembly to come to 65 years. So the committee has not come up with a new retirement age. Honorable Major Dong, he just brought it to the act which was in legislation. Also, the second issue through many submissions was about the acting. If you see within the fraternity of public sector in Kenya, there are many people who are acting. They are acting up to 4 years, they are acting up to 5 years. But when we did a lot of public participation and the interaction with many officers, that there was no factual fact for somebody to act more than 2 years. So that's why we found that if given the chance, the public sector, they are able to advertise the job and vet and employ within 1 year. So that's why we came to say that the 12 months is enough to recruit our officer to run another office. So now this bill is chairing the issue of acting more than 1 year. Even now existing many director general in this country, almost all of them, they're acting without any factual fact or any law which is not giving the time. We came to find that because the law is not giving the certain or the time which you can act, the time or maybe the requirement period which you can act, that's where there is that loophole. So this law has steward that, that lacuna that the people can act more than 2 years. Honorable Speaker, the other submission which came with that, there have been special manpower which maybe you get them at the age of 60 years, 75 years. They are still working in public sector in this country, especially like scientists, people working in investigation of aviation. They are still working at age of 70 years. There are also specialized doctors which are also working above 60 years. It is true, there are submission that these people, they can still come in as a consultant. They can still be taken as consultant in that field, especially now many doctors, they are coming in consultant. Aviation, we found that aviation industry, many they work still as employees, but they can still work as consultants. So that thing of making specialized manpower to work for long, this bill is still chewing. The other fact is that the argument which maturity age of the country, if you see right now, many students in grade 6 in Kenya, they are in secondary school. So the pupil who are supposed to be standard 7, now they are in junior secondary. It means that somebody, because I've gone to secondary school, there is maturity in age and maturity growth. So there is a future thinking that if we keep on the age of 60 years, we are going to disadvantage the future youth because people are maturing at younger age. But still, despite the exact argument, still the government is giving the ID at the age of 18 years. Even if you mature, there's still the issue of registration, a issue to be recognized as maturity is still at 18 years. So, Madam Speaker, with those few facts, I support the hack and also I support the submission by our committee. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mary Emase, member for Teso South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also wish to add my voice to this debate on this bill by Honorable Major Dong. Honorable Speaker, the issue of unemployment in Kenya is very serious. Statistics have it that 5.5%, according to the 2022 statistics, the rate of unemployment is at 5.5%. And statistics also have it that every year, an average of 50,000 graduates from universities are released into the job market. That is according to the Commission for Higher Education. And that does not include those that graduate from the middle-level colleges. So all these graduates expected to transit into job opportunities or positions. And I think the questions we should be asking ourselves, all of us, where shall we get these jobs if we continue to retain retired officers? Where shall we get these jobs if officers ask forever? They are acting forever without acting within a certain stipulated or defined period of time. Where are we going to get these jobs if even those who are lost through natural attrition are not being replaced? Honorable Speaker, we've been receiving MDAs and ministries who are telling us they have an aging population that is almost retiring the entire office, yet there are no replacements. So we even have an issue with replacing those who have left office, either as a result of retirement age, or accidents, or death, or in whichever manner. So there is a delay. Why are we delaying? And I want to support the position by one of the members that advertisement for recruitment to replace those who are leaving should be done 12 months to the period the other persons are retiring, because the establishment is there, the allocation is there. Why should that be delayed? Honorable Speaker, I think as a country we must plan for the future generation on how these graduates need to be absorbed as they finish colleges or university. And at this juncture, I want to thank and appreciate the President for the effort he's putting, even getting out of this country, visiting other nations outside in the world, to seek for employment opportunities for our young people in this country. And I want to urge all the nurses out there, apply for the position for the 2,000 nurses that are needed. And also I want to, at this juncture again, to thank the President for prioritizing programs that are going to generate additional opportunities, job opportunities for our youths in the country, including the housing programs and the EPZs that we are actually pushing as a country. But, Madam Speaker, above all, we must also concern ourselves and ask whether our colleges are preparing the young graduates to match the existing and available opportunities in the world or in the job market. So, Madam Speaker, I support this bill by Honorable Major Dong that there must be compulsory retirement after 60 years so that we create opportunities for others. That there must be penalties for those who are authorities that are not complying with the provisions of this legislation. And that there should be expiry of acting in acting capacity. So, Honorable Speaker, I support, and again, I want to congratulate Honorable Major Dong. Thank you.
Well, in the absence of the Honorable Andrew Okwome and the Honorable Julius Meli, member for Tinderet, I now give the opportunity to the Honorable Nabwera Nabi, member for Lungari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I want to raise to support this bill. Madam Speaker, I want to thank Mheshimiwa Benjamin for coming up with this amendment. Madam Speaker, as a HR practitioner, one of the things I found very unacceptable in the Kenyan public service is where we have casualized jobs, permanent and pensionable jobs. We have casualized them through acting appointment. Madam Speaker, a public service is a going concern. A public service is an entity of entirety. And Madam Speaker, in a country where you have excess labor, and not just labor, qualified labor, in a country where the public service should be setting standards for the private sector, it raises a lot of concern that we have key positions that remain in acting capacity for many, many years. Madam Speaker, you've heard what Honorable Malulu has shared with you, what befell him for 6 years. Madam Speaker, as I'm speaking to you here, a university in this country, which was almost, a university college which was almost going under, and a deputy vice chancellor was appointed to act. And he has acted effectively and brought that university to life. There has even been an attempt now to remove him and bring somebody who has been serving under him. That is what acting appointment can do. Madam Speaker, in this country, we have moved away from the tenets of code of conduct of the public service that requires one is appointed in acting capacity to assess his suitability, to assess his fit to the job, to now using it as a carrot by those who wield power. We have very sensitive positions. Madam Speaker, in the public service, a director is the engine of delivery. And if you are to look around in the public service in this country, as I was checking this morning, 109 positions, people are in acting capacity. Some as long as 2 years, some as long as 3 years. So the question is, why do we pay an institution called Public Service Commission, which is supposed to be employing public servants? The reason, Madam Speaker, people hang around after attaining 60 years are two. Number one, as a country, we have not done well in terms of pension for people who retire. The time we pay them, especially in the public service, and the quantum. So basically, given that these are the people in authority, they will want to perpetuate themselves in offices by always saying there is nobody ready to take over the job. As we deal with this issue, we need to revisit the Pensions Act. We need to look at the people who retire. What happens to them? We need to improve health care. We must think through, in the new scheme of things, how somebody who has served this country for so many years cannot afford health care. Somebody has retired as an undersecretary, somebody has retired as a director. After 2-3 years, he cannot be able to pay a bill, a medical bill. Those are some of the reasons why people don't want to go home when they attain 60 years. Madam Speaker, as we think through this, there is a new animal in the house called internship. You know, those of us who come from the HR field, we keep on wondering how you can make a teacher serve as an intern for 2 years. That makes it a casual job. I mean, a person staying with kids in school, and that's the animal we have at the JSS. That's why we can't stabilize that. When I grew up in this country, it was very clear when you join a job, after 1 year, they will assess whether you are suitable to be confirmed in that job. So I'm even calling on the Teacher Service Commission, I'm calling on the Public Service Commission to reconsider the approach of keeping young people as interns for 2 years and reduce it to 1 year and confirm them in employment. Madam Speaker, good HR practice, you must have a HR plan in place. If you have a HR plan in place, you automatically know Nabi Nabwera will be retiring in a year or 2 years or 3 years. You start getting somebody to understudy Nabi Nabwera. So when he reaches the retirement age, that person takes over automatically. There shouldn't be a vacuum where we are saying we are looking, we don't have a person, we need to, we even waste a lot of money advertising where people need to grow in the system. But the biggest problem we have, Madam Speaker, is this issue, the general principle of inclusion. The reason you have 109 directors in the public service acting is somebody is waiting for his kinsman. Because the kinsman is not the second person, the immediate understudy of this person. So keep that person in acting. We need to espouse regional balance, gender parity, and the whole question of BWD in the public service. If the public service flouts the HR practice, the code of conduct, how do we expect the private sector to behave? They will follow suit because the person setting the standard is not doing the right thing. Madam Speaker, I want to support this bill and thank Mheshimiwa Benjamin for a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members have purposively gone to the Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi, and I'll also purposively go to the Honorable Koskei for very obvious reasons, Honorable members. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Picking up from where my good friend, Honorable Nabi, has left, Madam Speaker, positions of acting. The succeeding governments have kept civil servants in acting positions for too long. One of the case I remember very well is the CEO of the CDF board, Mr. Mbuno. He was kept in acting position for 6 or 7 years. Then after that, you see now they come and try to confirm his appointment. I don't know why somebody would act for so long like that when you know very well he has qualified for that position. He is a person with competencies that have been approved and all that. Madam Speaker, even this amendment, I don't know what mischief is trying to attain because, Madam Speaker, people who are acting positions, and if this amendment says that this amendment is to create more vacancies for young people, Madam Speaker, I think we can do better than that. There are many ways we can create jobs for young people. We must increase the more opportunities in the public service because people who are retiring vis-a-vis people who are coming up to employment, the ratio, I think, is not the same. So as we discourage these things of people acting in position for too long, there should be a policy that creates job opportunities at different levels of government, at different agencies, and even at the private sector, informal sector, and all that. And Madam Speaker, even in this amendment, we need also to capture mandatory retirement age is 60 years. For people with disability, 65 years, it must be captured that also the people with disability must be also given to because sometimes people with disability, they get into employment job market very late in life. Some are employed when they are over 40. And when you now tell them they retire at that age of 60, mandatory 60, then you disadvantage them. So we just wish that this amendment will bring sanity in the public service so that people who are given acting, maybe is acting in a position to wait maybe for replacement or something that's happening, or as I say, who has got rare competencies that cannot be captured by somebody else. Because this, Madam Speaker, I believe that we have abused this position by allowing somebody sitting in a position not very sure whether he will be there tomorrow. And that even affects performance because somebody who is not guaranteed of his position may not perform very well. But when somebody is given a position and knows very well he's going to serve up to this time, he will be able to perform and can inspire others also to perform. And especially those who are sitting in senior positions, Madam Speaker. So we just want to see that public service and including the appointing authorities, especially, I remember in the last government, many CEOs of parastatals, almost 80% of them were in acting capacities. So you wonder why, if they put him in an acting capacity, why wouldn't they not find a way of either replacing him or confirming him so that he can continue? So, Madam Speaker, I just want to add my voice, but I also want to say that people with disability must also be given, when we are doing this amendment, Madam Speaker, we shall amend at a later stage to include persons with disability in this amendment, Madam Speaker. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak on this.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Jackson Kosgei, nominated member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think my colleague team has handled. I wish to have a voice here that in this bill, as we do amendment, Madam Speaker, it must come out very clear in treating what one would consider as a bureaucratic marginalization, a silent policy that removes certain people and denies them certain enjoyment in public service. So one such is a silence on, is it 80, section 80 of this amendment? It is not mentioning and coming out clearly to include persons with disability as one of the targeted in terms of making it clear on the retirement. It has been done well in the Public Finance Management Act. This must also be reflected in the public service, that persons with disability retire at the age of 65. We have a case, Madam Speaker, somebody, Francis Manaibei, from Central Bank, who was retired 2022 at the age of 60, and the bank would not consider even the public service circular that came out in 2012, and also the subsequent amendment on the Public Finance Management Act, because in some laws it is not recognizing. And I think this is the right time, Madam Speaker, this is considered and be reflected in law. So I think, as team mentioned, Honorable, that later on in this detailed amendment, I plead with the mover to accept that this be made an outstanding, identifiable area of treatment by this particular law. Second, Madam Speaker, is that, as my colleagues have said, this is to deal with the